Angelina, to your right.
Angelina, to your left side.
There's something about Angelina Jolie's silence that demands attention. She doesn't clap back. She doesn't subtweet. No podcast shade or sidewalk pap walks with cryptic quotes. She says one sentence, and the entire industry holds its breath. That's exactly what happened last week. IT was a moment so subtle it could have gone unnoticed. But it didn't. Because that sentence was about her, about Blake Lively. And the people who were in that room when Angelina said it haven't stopped talking since. Not because it was loud, but because it cut deeper than anything Blake's ever had to face in public. Deeper than the headlines. Deeper than the lawsuits. Deeper than the carefully crafted PR resets she's rolled out this year. Because this time, it wasn't just another Hollywood tangle. It was about legacy, integrity, morality. And Angelina Jolie, the woman who survived every era of tabloid chaos, just drew a line in the sand. Blake crossed it, and this time, Angelina's not letting her walk away without facing the fallout.
It is a myth that rape is an inevitable part of conflict.
It happened at the Artists for Ethics Summit, an invitation-only panel tucked away in Beverly Hills. No live stream. No sponsors. Not a single hashtag in sight. This wasn't the kind of event built for public consumption. It was private, intentional, just 40 people in the room, nearly all of them women who had, in one way or another, shaped the landscapes of culture, politics, and art. Angelina Jolie was the final speaker. Her panel, The Cost of Silence in Public Life. She didn't read from notes. She didn't perform. She spoke. Slowly, deliberately. Each word chosen with care, each pause pregnant with weight. Then came the sentence that IT wasn't planned. It wasn't in the notes she had handed the moderator beforehand. But when she said it, the room froze. There's a difference between telling a story and stealing someone else's voice while smiling for the camera. No names. No pointed fingers. But it didn't matter. Everyone knew who she meant. 3 days earlier, Blake Lively had launched a charity campaign. One designed almost identically to Angelina's long-standing refugee advocacy. Same mission, same talking points, even the same partner organizations. But Blake hadn't asked permission. Hadn't offered credit. Hadn't even reached out. She simply borrowed the legacy and wore it like a gown on a red carpet. Insiders say Angelina wasn't just upset. She was livid. Not because she was copied, but because something sacred had been reshaped into a shiny PR moment. After that panel, sources whispered, "The gloves are off." And if you think the truth stays hidden, think again. Join the channel. We'll keep pulling back the curtain.
Difficult as conditions are, the refugees here count themselves as the lucky ones.
In March 2025, Blake Lively unveiled Homebound, a wellness and rebuilding initiative aimed at families in conflict-impacted zones. The announcement arrived quietly, yet visually curated to perfection. A smiling photo of Blake holding hands with displaced women, a pastel-toned website with gentle gradients, a voiceover ad full of warm inflections, all anchored by a tagline that read, "Rebuilding what's been broken, one voice at a time." Only, there was one problem. That exact phrase had been used before, word for word, in a 2019 UNHCR campaign co-authored by Angelina Jolie and a now-retired war reporter. The coincidence raised eyebrows. But what made it worse was the location. The very village featured in Blake's campaign had been one Angelina had worked with for over 6 years, and yet, nowhere in the launch, no credits, no captions, no acknowledgments, was Angelina's name. A week later, a UN press aide leaked an internal email sent to Blake's team. It read, "While we appreciate the visibility, the narrative and language appear lifted directly from protected UN content. Ms. Jolie is understandably distressed." Blake's team denied any knowledge of overlap. But the internet was faster than spin. Ethics in Media tweeted, "That new Blake Lively ad feels way too familiar." Word-for-word phrasing from Angelina's refugee campaign in 2019. "This ain't homage. It's theft." 3 days after that quote made the rounds in closed journalist circles, something strange happened. Homebound's landing page went into maintenance. The pastel ad disappeared. The tagline was erased. Even Blake's Instagram post, captioned "Every Voice Matters," vanished. NO statement. No clarification. No apology. But the thing about disappearing something from the internet? It never really disappears. It becomes searchable. Reddit lit up. Users posted screenshots of Blake's deleted content side by side with Angelina's decade-old refugee field visits. The resemblance was more than uncanny. It was mirrored. The same phrasing, the same framing, the same slow walk surrounded by local women. Only one was real, and the other? Marketed. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. This wasn't about branding or PR. This was about legacy theft. Angelina Jolie had spent nearly 2 decades working from inside war zones. Blake had arrived for a weekend photo shoot, styled, scripted, and softly filtered. One cultural critic posted, Angelina's been in Syria, Cambodia, Congo. Blake did one filter trip and tried to rebrand trauma like it was her lifestyle blog. I'm actually disgusted. The silence grew louder. A private event for Artists for Ethics, a guest speaker who sat 2 chairs away from Angelina gave an anonymous quote to an independent arts journalist. She didn't name names. She didn't have to. It was like a slap delivered with velvet gloves. No one spoke, but every single person in the room knew exactly who she meant. Then she added, chillingly, what upset Angelina wasn't the mimicry. It was the erasure. The idea that someone could borrow her voice, her work, her cause, and then pretend she never existed. The article exploded, because erasure isn't new in Hollywood. It's just rarely called out by someone like Angelina Jolie, who never claps back, never names names. But this time, she didn't need to. Others were doing it for her. Ethical Cinema tweeted, that anonymous quote from the panel? One of the coldest, most elegant takedowns I've ever read. Borrow her voice. Pretend she never existed. Wow. The ripple effect was instant. 2 major fashion publications that had prepped features on Blake's campaign quietly pulled their stories. A talk show canceled Blake's humanitarian segment. And then, silently but unmistakably, 2 major actresses known for advocacy, Florence Pugh and Charlize Theron, unfollowed Blake on Instagram. No tweets. No comments. Just a missing name in a digital list. But in Hollywood, absence speaks volumes. Angelina remained silent. She didn't post, didn't comment. But her longtime creative director, he shared the quote on his private story. Black background, white serif font. There's a difference between telling a story and stealing someone else's voice while smiling for the camera. No caption. No tag. Just the text and the message, loud. No more spin, said one user. Blake just got silently blacklisted by the very women she wanted to stand beside. You can buy styling. You can't buy respect. Rewind to 2015, Angelina Jolie launched a global UN-backed initiative focused on trauma support for female survivors in war zones. She personally met every grassroots org involved. She didn't just fund them. She didn't just speak for them. She listened. That same year, she published an op-ed titled When the Cameras Leave. In it, she wrote, "The world doesn't change when we post about pain. It changes when we sit in it." The quote spread like wildfire. University pamphlets, NGO newsletters, even political summits referenced it. Fast forward to 2022, Blake Lively launches her own, empathy-led, storytelling charity with a branding deck centered around amplifying unheard voices with beauty and grace. Her campaign tagline, "The world doesn't change when we look away. It changes when we care beautifully." Sound familiar? It should. 1 In turn from Blake's 2022 launch campaign anonymously leaked her brand deck PDF to a Discord for advocacy students. Side by side with Angelina's 2015 op-ed, the similarities weren't just undeniable, they were damning, an NGO insider posted. They really thought changing the font and color made it different. This was copy-paste from Angelina's Blood, Sweat, and 2015. A month before the homebound collapse, Blake gave an interview to a lifestyle podcast. It was meant to be lighthearted, wholesome, raw vulnerability in a safe space, but near the end, the host asked, "Who inspires you when it comes to activism?" Blake answered, "There are so many amazing women. I love what people like Reese Witherspoon and Meghan Markle are doing. It's inspiring to see women finally take the reins. She didn't say Angelina Jolie. That omission said everything, because you don't forget the woman whose words you've been softly plagiarizing for years. Clips of that podcast resurfaced. One tweet summed it up. She said Reese. She said Megan. But not Angelina. This woman's erasure game is Olympic level. Then came the screenshot, circulating in a private PR Discord. It was allegedly from a homebound comms team member sent to a small humanitarian org. The message read, "Can we get a shot like that Angelina pic in Jordan but with softer tones? Think compassionate, but prettier." The intern who received it didn't speak publicly until now. After the anonymous quote from Angelina went viral, that intern posted the message to their locked account with a caption, "When you try to filter someone else's war into pastel lighting, don't be surprised when the fire burns through your brand." The post leaked, and the backlash exploded, because you can't aestheticize war crimes. You can't turn someone's lived trauma into campaign mood boards. And then, something subtle happened. Natalie Portman, silent until then, followed Angelina Jolie on Instagram. A quiet gesture from someone who follows fewer than 200 people. 2 days later, she reposted a quote to her story. "Legacy isn't about being seen. It's about what remains when you're no longer looking." No name, no tags, just tension. Then came the moment. ATA Private Women in Film event in Berlin, a leaked clip surfaced. Natalie was speaking to a small group of activists. One woman mentioned how hard it is to protect authentic advocacy from being hijacked by celebrities. Natalie smiled. "Yes. And I think the world is finally learning to tell the difference." 11 seconds, Synclips Daily posted it with the caption, "Natalie Portman throwing the quietest dagger ever, and still ending a whole career. I love cinema." Meanwhile, Angelina still said nothing, but then, an old clip surfaced. Raw footage from a 2016 human rights campaign shoot. She's speaking off camera, candid and unscripted. "When people treat advocacy like fashion, something gets lost," she says. "The real stories. The ugly truths. The discomfort." She pauses, looks straight into the lens. And sometimes, those who copy the language of empathy the best are the ones who feel it the least. That line never made the final cut. But now? It's everywhere. The clip hit TikTok, captioned, "She warned us before anyone even asked." A fan edit stitched it side by side with an old 2011 Gossip Girl behind-the-scenes video. Blake is asked, "What's one quote you live by?" Her answer, "I think if you look the part, you'll get the part." Back then, it was cheeky, naive, almost charming. Now, it plays like a confession. That TikTok hit 3.2 million views in 24 hours. One tweet put it plainly. 2011 Blake Lively, "If you look the part, you'll get the part." That aged like spoiled milk. And then came the speech. Early April. UN Women's Summit. Angelina Jolie took the stage to deliver the closing remarks. The room expected commentary on global conflict. Instead, she spoke of silence. "There are people who wear suffering like a dress rehearsal and call it activism. But those who've lived it don't need rehearsal." No name. No reference. Just a perfectly sharpened blade, hidden inside velvet, and everyone knew exactly who it was for. That line was reposted across Twitter with just 4 words. She meant every syllable, feminist voices said. She didn't say Blake Lively. But she said Blake Lively. Blake? She canceled 2 podcast appearances. Dropped out of a panel. Her weekly homebound Instagram update never came. And, oh meltdown. No notes app apology, just silence. And in that silence, the internet found its voice. Fan pages that once obsessively tagged Blake in pinkcore edits started reposting the Angelina quote instead. One comment read, "You can't pose next to pain and expect to be seen as powerful, not when the women who lived it are finally speaking." Then the photo grainy, dim, unplanned, a leaked shot from a UNHCR gala. Angelina Jolie beside Amal Clooney, deep in conversation in the background, Blake Lively, alone, distant, observing, and oh smile. No engagement. Just watching. The image hit Reddit with the caption, "The room knows," and she finally realized she's not the main character. Within a week, Angelina unfollowed Blake. Then Natalie. Then Emma Watson. Then Yara Shahidi. Then Lupita Nyong'o. No drama. No statements, just a quiet exodus. And Hollywood noticed, because in this town, when they stop watching you, that's when you know it's over. Weeks later, an anonymous staffer from Homebound submitted a story to a blog. They claimed Blake had been watching old Angelina speech clips on mute. During a branding call, someone joked about the viral quote. Blake didn't laugh. She just said, quietly, "I didn't think it would stick." Not with fear. Not with malice. Just disbelief. Because for the first time, one sentence had done what no scandal, no rumor, no headline ever could. It broke the illusion.